Hey everybody, it's Emily, the Crazy Worm Lady. I was asked to share a little bit about how I feed my bins because I do blend my food, which many people don't. There's kind of mixed opinions on that. Some people don't like the idea of using the electricity to do it and they just throw their scraps in whole. But I wanted to share a little bit of my process. I freeze my scraps first, and then after a couple of days, I pull it out of the freezer. I whip it up in my blender. In the blender today, I have coffee grounds, avocado shells, watermelon rinds, and bell pepper. The coffee grounds are what are making it look so black. So that's what's in the blender now. I also sometimes put a little bit of this dry worm food mix that I have, which I just made with some leftover dry goods I had around the house, oatmeal and eggshells, and let's see what else. There is some cornmeal and some flour and kelp meal. So that's what's in there right now. This is my little spice grinder, and in my spice grinder, that's what I use to grind up my eggshells. It's an old one. I don't really use it anymore, so I just use it to pulverize eggshells after I dry them out in the oven. And then this is what I keep all my coffee grounds in. This way it grows a little bit of mold, which just lets the worms get to it faster. So I have a few holes punched in the top of this plastic. But I collect coffee grounds from my own personal use as well as from Starbucks. I'll go through the drive-thru every once in a while and pick some up, and I just keep them in that container and add them as I go. So let's get into some of the bins and I will show you how I feed them. Okay, I moved a light over so you can see a little bit better. So this is the inside of the Rubbermaid. I'm going to feed over here. So I just peel back as much as possible out of this corner. I mean, almost down to the bottom, because I like to make sure it's covered really thoroughly. So, okay, that's pretty good. A lot of worms down here. I was actually a little bit surprised. Okay. So the first thing that I do is take some paper out of my shredder, and I load down the side, and this is all Amazon boxes and toilet paper rolls today, no actual paper. So I load that up real good. Then, I'm going to stand up a little bit here so I can grab my blender. I take a few spoonfuls of my food out of the blender, and I just plop it in there. So I just like to kind of spread it out with my fingers to mix it a little bit in with the cardboard. It'll absorb the moisture and also help the worms kind of move throughout everything. The last thing that I do is I either add my dry worm food or my pulverized eggshells. So here's my eggshells from today. I just sprinkle this on top. Not a ton, but enough. And that acts as a buffer for the pH, as well as grit for the worms, because worms do have a gizzard like a chicken, so they need something with grit to help move the food through their system. So then I just cover everything back up, and I leave it for usually 5 to 7 days before I feed again. I just decide whether or not to feed based upon if all the food previously is gone. You really don't want to feed the bin if there's still food left. Then you risk the problems you can have with overfeeding, such as an anaerobic bin. Worms can get the protein poisoning, anything like that. You just don't want to invite pests or create a problem with the pH in your bin. So I will also show you how I feed my worm factory, so let me jump over there. Okay, so anybody who has seen my previous video on my worm factory, I was having some problems with beetles and mites. The numbers seem to be nearly gone. I mean, not even a problem. So I decided I will feed this bin. It's been a little while. This top layer here is just shredded cardboard. And I do that hoping that the food that's on the layer below is thoroughly covered and doesn't attract the pests. So let me pop this off. Oh yeah, worms seem to be moving all throughout. In my worm factory, I do pocket feed, which again is alternating corners based upon where you fed last. It's been a while since I fed, but I'm going to feed this back right-hand corner. So let me grab some of my shredded cardboard here. I'm going to feed this pretty heavily. So it's 2 really nice big handfuls of the cardboard. Now again, here's my blender with my food. So I'm gonna get, I don't know, 2 or 3 spoonfuls and just really load down this corner over here. Sorry, it's a little hard to do this one-handed, and my tripod that I use broke on me. I didn't want to stop to fix it. Okay, so that's a pretty good amount of food here. So since I'm doing that, I'm just gonna kind of put some of this cardboard over the top of it. Again, kind of mix it around. Then I will take my pulverized eggshells, now that my hands are really dirty, I have to clean everything. Sprinkle that all over the top. I'm going to do it a lot more liberally than in my other bins. Make sure that nothing gets off as far as pH is concerned. Cover it up. Make sure that, I'm going to come down here. You can make sure it's fairly level because you want the layer on top of it to sit pretty flush if you can. But yeah, this is starting to look pretty good, these castings. Sorry about that. Apparently I ran out of space on my phone for the storage. But I was just saying that these castings are really starting to look nice in here. And there's worms throughout. I guess since I haven't fed it all that recently, they're kind of going through and working through it. So this side now is fed, and we will take a peek at it next week. So I commented before about these little beetles, and I never had one to actually show you guys. They were always in hiding. Of course, I just fed this bin, and now I'm seeing some running around in the diatomaceous earth, which is great. It'll kill them. But you can see there's 2 of them right here. I'm going to try to get a little closer. They're black, but right now they're covered in the diatomaceous earth, so you can't tell that quite as much. I'm trying to see if there's any more in here. Usually, there's another one. Usually I have them in super high numbers. So I'm pleased that it's not many, but I'm still a little irritated because I couldn't see any of them the other day, and now they're back in action. So I just finished feeding all my bins. So those are my 2 experimental bins. I haven't touched those. But then this is my 10-gallon totes. There were 4 of them. They're all fed. Then my worm factory, and that's my European nightcrawler bin. I did not feed that this week. But I think I will check in on it next week. It has some corn on the cob in it that they seem to be really hanging out in a lot and enjoying. So I hope this video helped you. You understand a little bit about how I feed my bins with the blended scraps and the pocket feeding method, or feeding one section at a time. So if you have any questions, anything I didn't address, feel free to comment below. Like this video if you're interested in more content, and always feel free to subscribe. I hope you guys have an excellent night.